Okay, so we can start. Thank you so much, gentlemen, ladies, friends and comrades from the fourth estate. I am glad to be hosting you in my office today after two important meetings have been held by Zanu PF at this headquarters, the headquarters of the part of the Permanent Zimbabwe Revolution, Zanu PF. We had on Tuesday our meeting of the Politburo, which prepares the program, the worksheet for the Central Committee, which was held yesterday again here at the party headquarters. Just for refresher, the Politburo is a working committee of the Central Committee. It is the executive wing of the Central Committee. The Central Committee is the elected body of Zanu PF, which comes from the organs and the provinces of the party, from the grassroots level all the way to the top. This is the elected membership of the party. Out of that, the elected leader of the party, who is the first secretary of the party, who is the president of Zanu PF, is free to select people who become his Politburo, which is the executive wing of the Central Committee. Under the party constitution, the only elected member of the Politburo is the president. Everybody else who is in the Politburo is an appointee of the president. So you serve in the Politburo at the behest of the president and the first secretary of the party, not in your own right. The only person who is delegated with authority by the Central Committee is the president. I am emphasizing this point so that eventually if questions are fielded, people must know who calls the shots in Zanu PF. And the person who calls the shots in Zanu PF is the elected leader of the party, who is the president and at the same time the first secretary. All other secretaries are appointees. All other members of his presidium, which is an inner committee of the Central of the Politburo, they are also his appointees. So if you are in the presidium, you are there at the behest of the president, not in your own right. This is akin to the cabinet, where the president is elected by the whole country. Then he chooses ministers out of his own volition. Obviously, guidelines are set by the parties to who can be a minister, and parameters are set by the party constitution. So you serve in cabinet at the behest of the president of the republic, not in your own right as a minister. This is very important for people to understand how Zanu works. These two meetings were in preparation for a very important annual event on the calendar of Zanu PF. The annual event of importance on the calendar of Zanu PF is called the National People's Conference. The conference is basically an annual review of the work of the party in the interim period between congresses. We have a congress every 5 years, and the congress charts out the broad policies of Zanu PF and what it needs to deliver to the electorate of Zimbabwe as its message of appeal to the electorate. During the interim of that 5 years, these institutions which I'm talking about are the ones which are running the affairs of the party. But the party is a private citizen. It's not a governmental entity. The governance of the party is done, of the country, is done through the elected representatives, which are fielded by Zanu PF, including its president, to compete against any other political parties or formations which may want to be the leaders of Zimbabwe. That's a general election. And when a general election is done and a party wins, then it wins, it gets the right to govern that country. And we are happy to say that Zanu PF has consistently been winning these elections in a democratic dispensation, which it started right from the formation of the Zimbabwe state. Unlike other revolutionary movements from other regions in the past, Zanu PF decided that although it had won the liberation war militarily, or was on the verge of winning it militarily, it needed the baptism of the people of Zimbabwe through a vote to become the governing party of Zimbabwe. And that's exactly what we did in 1980. We went through an election which essentially endorsed our victorious ethos from the liberation war. But we have been faithful to that tradition of having elections. We are not a revolutionary party which says from bullet to office. We are a revolutionary party which created new grounds unprecedented in global affairs to say a revolutionary national liberation movement which is on the verge of victory accepts to be adjudicated by the electorate of that particular, the population of that country, to become the rulers. It's a tradition which Southern Africa since adopted, but the pallbearer, the pioneer to that tradition is Zanu PF. So it is very important that we have this annual People's Conference every year, because it gives a chance for the membership of the party to question what has been going on in that particular year as we strive to fulfill our compact, our covenant with the people of Zimbabwe. And the president will be there to give the worksheet of what the government has been doing, a government which was delegated by Zanu PF to rule on its behalf. So the government rules on behalf of Zanu PF because we have to satisfy the electoral aspects of our constitution. Zanu PF does not directly run the government. But we need to supervise this work of the ministers. We need to supervise the work of the president. We need to supervise the work of the government agencies delegated by the constitution to fulfill the wishes of Zimbabwe. And what are the wishes? The wishes of Zimbabweans are to get a better life. They sacrificed all they did in the National Liberation War because there was the prospect of a better life. It was collective sacrifice by individuals for the prospect of a better life. Zanu PF takes seriously its assignment to the people of Zimbabwe, because if it doesn't fulfill that prospect of a better life, it will be voted out of power. That's why Zanu PF is so particular. That's why these meetings, the annual People's Conference, are very important, because we need to take stock. Otherwise, we suffer the fate of other liberation movements which may have been challenged severely to be almost driven out of power, a fate which we also have faced in the past when we had challenges because the electorate felt otherwise about us. So this annual People's Conference is very important event on the calendar of Zanu PF, and there will be more than 2,000 to 3,000 delegates from all the provinces. They represent the provincial structures, they represent the district structures, they represent the inter-district structures which are superior to and they represent the branches of the party, and they represent the cells. We are a party which has got a bottom-up structure to the top. You just don't come from nowhere, you come from those structures. And this is owed to our National Liberation War, because we had to organize the people to overcome the menacing organizational ascendance of the British offshoot of Rhodesia, which was in charge of this country. To win, we had to deliver an organizational capability, which was superior to the one which was existing, the colonial one. So the structures of Zanu PF are sacrosanct. They are born out of experience. They are born out of the war, and they make the party have that pulse of the population, so that we strive to work better so that we retain power. So this annual review is a serious affair by the party to make sure that ministers are accountable, to make sure that the president is accountable, that the president is delivered. And we are very happy on that note to say, according to what comes from the Central Committee, according to what comes from the Politburo, the government's worksheet is offering continued hope for Zimbabwe people. Hope we had almost died by 2017. It has been revived. It is growing. It is alive among Zimbabweans. There's a new can-do spirit among Zimbabweans. That can-do spirit of a people who faced the most formidable challenge of the anti-colonial war to create a modern army and emerged victorious against the most capable empire of all times, the British Empire. It gives Zimbabweans a confidence about what they can do for themselves. It's called a can-do spirit. We have that can-do spirit. Unfortunately, this can-do spirit had flagged down towards the dying ages, the dying era of this First Republic. People had lost confidence in Zimbabwe, and we were a pariah state. We were a laughing stock of even our neighbors, and we generally had lost that confidence about what we can do. Thanks to Comrade Emerson Mnangagwa and his ascendance to power, in a short 7 years, we have changed the whole scenario. A very short, not even 6 years. The difference between the economy in 2017 and what it is today is like midnight October sun and midnight December storm night. There is such a huge gap, difference about what we have achieved. And it is for this reason that we have this People's Conference for people to cheer what their president has been doing, but also to ask him to tweak his administration so that it can do better, so that it can continue to deliver on what the party promised, to turn Zimbabwe into a middle-income nation by 2030. And all indications to date, all the indicators point to the fact that we are on the right road. First, there are the micro indicators from institutions like the World Bank and the IMF. They have all come to accept that Zimbabwe's economy is growing at more than 6 to 7% per annum. It is the fastest growing in the region, and this growth is sustained. This is not a figure from somebody who loves Zanu PF. These institutions were always very critical of Zanu PF in the past, but they've eaten a humble pie. They now accept that Zimbabwe is a growth economy. This has happened because of the turnaround of the president in the last 5 years. There's also, at macro level, the general living standards of the people of Zimbabwe are getting better. Albeit, those who started getting head start came from rural areas, because we had to carry out a lot of agro farming reforms so that our people can produce more crops, can have food security. And increasingly now, we are graduating from food security to cash crops. You saw what we did this year, 354 million kilograms of tobacco. This is almost 20 to 30% higher than the crop last year. But more to the point is that at the height of the colonial era, the white farmers produced 200 million kilograms. We have gone to 354 kilograms. This is big. And this is high quality tobacco being produced by Zimbabwean farmers. How many of them? Over 160 to 180,000 farmers from across the land producing the golden leaf to supply the largest tobacco auction floors in the world, and the quality keeps on rising. Zimbabweans are proving their mettle that if difficult crop like tobacco, they can master it to satisfy the demands of the blend tobacco, which is so much desired by cigarette manufacturers. The flavor of Zimbabwean tobacco is a must for cigarette manufacturers all over the world. And our farmers are living to that expectation of those cigarette manufacturers in the world. This is major in Urungwe, in Marondera, in Rusape, in Centenary. This is major. We have also done the same with food crops. Now we are harvesting wheat. We expect to have a bumper harvest of wheat. Zimbabweans in a short period of time have converted the dry lands of the winter dry season into lush green and later golden farm fields of wheat, good high quality wheat. We now become self-sufficient in wheat. The only other country on the African continent is Ethiopia, which is self-sufficient. This is a major achievement in terms of food security. Yes, this year they may have not been in some maize issues, but people have migrated to produce tobacco, which gives them more money. So out of the money which they get from the tobacco, they can buy the maize. So it's not like, it's a loss even if our maize stocks have gone low. No, people are discerning markets. Zimbabweans are very, very capitalist minded. They follow the market and they see with the crop which rewards best and they go for it. I'm just giving you, we are going to Manicaland. This is a province which goes to so many microclimates, and all of them now are providing macadamias, are providing avocados, are providing flowers, are providing all sorts of diverse crops which Zimbabwe used to be known for in Rhodesia, but which had gone down. But our new farmers, and together with the stability in the farming, even the retained white farmers, they are all working shoulder to shoulder in Manicaland to restore those microclimates to the diversity of crops, which are so important for the discerning palates of the world consumers. Our blueberries are the stuff of legend. Now the latest market to join our blueberry bandwagon is China. This is 1.4 billion people. They are now hungry for Zimbabwean blueberries. I see a boon for Zimbabwean farmers. These are the things which the president has been doing at macro level to change people's lives. Food security at basic level. People no longer now we are having village units, which are each village has got a village unit. We are using solar. It is being husbanded, and water is now being drip. I go to a drip tech factory shop in Harare or anywhere in the country. I almost like I'm at a chicken inn. People are buying drip pipes to go and do farming in a queue, like they are buying chicken at chicken inn. These are Zimbabweans who are responding to what the president has done. It means that water is being saved. It means the dry season is being removed from the calendar of production. It's being restored to an all 365-day year of cropping. This is what Zanu PF have done, and we've got this army of young people on motorbikes going all over the country advising farmers as to how to farm. This is provided by the central bank government. What are we doing? We are uplifting living standards of the ordinary people in the villages. This is a constituent which is so important because 70% of the voters in Zimbabwe are in rural areas. And this is the constituent which bore the brunt of the liberation struggle. They are now beginning to see results which affect their lives. So there's prosperity around. I can dwell a lot on the micro level. The mining sector is on a runaway success. It's a streak of success. We have the best billionaires in the world in Zimbabwe doing lithium. We have billionaires in the world. We have the top ones in the world doing steel in Zimbabwe. We have the others who are coming in to do chrome into Zimbabwe. These are big changes where Zimbabwe's footprint on the global mining stage is being registered. This is the success of the Second Republic. We had no investors at all during the dying years of the First Republic. President Mnangagwa, under Open for Business, has turned it around. Now Zimbabwe is being trooped to by the top-notch miners, billionaire miners of the world. It's changing. We are the only country now in Africa with a thoroughly modern steel plant, which is now making us having inroads in our relations of joint steel management with South Africa, because Zimbabwe is streaked ahead in the production of steel. I can tell you now on your phone, we just the Dinson Steel has just been given a clean bill, an award by the South African Bureau of Standards. This is big. It means that our steel can now apply the South African market, which is the largest in sub-Saharan Africa, and still the largest on the African continent. So these are things, and we have the Palm River plant. I mean, if you sit in Mad South, which is going to be a major metallurgical area, but there are exciting things which have happened in Hwange. Hwange has come back rolling as the energy bank of Zimbabwe. Remember when the colonials came, the first thing which they did was to build a railway line to Hwange. Why? Because they were steamships. They were coal engines. The railways moved with coal. So Rhodes identified Hwange as the place which would provide the energy for the traction of the country. That's why the railway went to Hwange first. Now Hwange has come back big time. It's a booming town. We now have to, look at restoring all our railway infrastructure, and I'm glad the president is seeking out the support of the masters of global railway engineering, the Chinese, to come and help us build the infrastructure which will interconnect all these aspects of mining. Because mining, you can carry crops by trucks. But mining, you need railways. So there is a very bright future for railway, and President is looking at how we can close the gap between the growth in our economy, particularly the mining sector, and the provision of infrastructure to service this rapidly growing, developing mining sector, so that we can continue to attract the best possible capital into mining. Because when miners want to come, they want to know how, do you have the water, do you have the electricity, do you have the railways, do you have the road network, and do you have so all these things are part of the work which will be reviewed in Mutare. And we are also going to review the scholarship of the Zimbabweans, as the most educated, highly skilled population on the African continent. Everybody says the jump from Zimbabwe, for a Zimbabwean, from education to skills is very steep. We are an educated people. I can tell you, I saw it during the war because we came from secondary schools. The jump from not knowing a gun forever in our lives and mastering it to defeat the Rhodesians in 5 years was so steep. There's no sharp learning curve in mastering modern weapon, as was demonstrated by Zimbabweans. So we are naturally, and when we are an organized and structured people, and when you throw in education, we become very scalable, and our labor force is convertible on the global market in US dollars, in Chinese yuan, in Japanese yen. This is Zimbabwe. This is what we are. So the president is going to be giving a report about how our diaspora is coming back home, a seamless diaspora from which identify a diaspora which seamlessly identifies with home. Before they were running away from poverty, from the lack of jobs. Now they are coming back to opportunities. And as we build all these new industries, they will bring what they've learned abroad back home. And 2 + 2 will never, or 2 × 2 never before. It will be 2 to the power of something. It's 2 to the power of a coefficient. This is the Zimbabwe. These are aspects which I want to emphasize to you will be dealt with in Mutare. It's a worksheet of what the president has been doing. We know we also now have new airports, we have new parliament, we are building small airports so that there's faster mobility among all these business units in rural, which are emerging. They are creating a middle class. We are creating a middle class in Zimbabwe, a homegrown middle class. Unlike in South Africa, where they don't have property, in Zimbabwe people have property because of the land reform. So when you have property and you have control of your economy, you can grow a middle class. That's what Zimbabwe is doing. That's why you see so many cars on the road. That's why you see, so many houses being built. This is the emergence of a middle class. And a middle class is good for a country because it forebodes stability. Vanhu vane property havadi zvenoise. So anageza vakada kudaidzira kuti budai muende muroad. Vanhu vane property vanoti muda kuti uite hofu yokuti dziparadzire motikari dzedu, mutiparadzire dzimba dzedu. It's not this unlike other African countries where the poverty levels are so high that people don't have hope. In Zimbabwe, we have hope. But most crowning for the president, I don't want to dwell on because it will be the report sheet on the currency. We had no currency in 2017. Our currency had been frittered away by sanctions and by prolific printing of paper, which was not supported by production. What the president has done is to take the legalization of SME gold mining, which he championed when he was in cabinet in the First Republic. I know because I was in that cabinet when we argued to allow SME miners not to be hunted down by Gondo Arishai. No, this is an industry which our parents, forefathers had for hundreds of years. That's why there was stability in Zimbabwe. There was no printing press for money, but there was a currency which was stable. The currency was called gold. That's why we've got all this Mashingo, Great Zimbabwe, we've got Kami. It's because we had a stable currency. The worst enemy of government is inflation. And inflation, governments tend to print money when there's money, paper money. But for all these centuries, the Mnumtapa kingdom starting, there was no printing press in Zimbabwe, but there was prosperity. What was it? Gold. So the president has taken gold mining to another level. Our SMEs now produce 60 to 70% of the gold. And I'm giving you a figure, 51 tons. This is from the World Gold Association. That's what Zimbabwe is now producing. We're down to 3 tons in 2008. And when he came in 2018, we probably were around 10 to 15 tons. Now we have multiplied more, 3 to 4 times over. And gold has become money because of the instability in geopolitics. Each time, tariffs are announced by China against Trump and Trump against Xi, the gold price goes up. So now you see Zimbabwe is the privilege of possessing the money and making actually husbanding the US dollar to make it like a domestic currency. It's your money. It's not given by the American government in US dollars because the Zimbabweans are digging gold. I come from Chegutu. There is a mining company called Magaya. They didn't exist 4 years ago. They came trying to remove Korokozas, and they wanted my political support as the top leader in Mashonaland and West. I said, no, why don't you allow these small miners to mine surface gold? Later, when they go deep, you can come in because you are the owners of the claim. Then they will need more capital, they'll come to you. But let them harvest the surface one, which you will not use anyway because you don't have the capital required is too low for you to apply your money. The owners of that claim, Pixon PLS, they came back 4 years later. Magaya is producing half a ton of gold every month. And they are now supporting more than 60 to 70,000 small miners, structuring the industry so that there is no issues about marketing, there are no issues about the environment, fidelity is there, there is safety because they make sure that shafts are inspected. This is what is happening in this country. And all over the country now, everybody they are applying the same concept to chrome. This is a basic macro level. Young people, young women getting into the mining sector across lithium, across chrome, across gold. That's why our currency keeps strengthening. So the president has given back Zimbabwe its currency. Without a currency, there is no relationship between any of us. Currency is the dome to power kuti tiri maZimbabweans. Ari kwaPlumtree neari kwaMutare vanoziyana nenyaya yecurrency kuti takabatana. Pakamboshaika ichocho chete vanhu vese vanotiza nyika because haichagariki. This is what the president has done. So these are the things which this document I'm waving to you contains. This is the document which the president will be presenting to the delegates in Mutare about as a summation of the highlights which I've just been pointing to you about what Zanu PF is about the delivery of the prospect of prosperity to the people of Zimbabwe. This is the document. And we have a program. This is the program which we will work on in Mutare. This is what we were deliberating on as the Politburo. This is what we deliberated on as the Central Committee. This is what we are focused on. Why am I saying this? Because there is a buzz out there by people who want to foist us with their own agendas, to detract us away. Some of them are out there, but also, unfortunately, of late, some of them, not many, maybe have emerged from inside the party. And here we are dealing with people who simply do not want to work by rules of the party, by the constitution of the country. They cannot wait their day to have the people choose whom they want. And they think that they are somehow entitled to become rulers because wangobva kwamai vako wakapfeka bhutsu dzakanaka and une tai wangofunga kuti ndinofanira kuti nditonge. No, it doesn't work like that. We work through the structures of the party, and you have to account yourself to the party. And if people don't, if you are not the leader at that particular time, wait until your turn comes. So these are some of the issues. I don't want to delve with them because they are a distraction from the work of the conference, which our very competent national chairperson has been organizing, Comrade Opa Mchinguri. She's a seasoned cadre of the party. I respect her a lot. She went to war as a young girl. We were together, about the same time she went in 1975. We met. She never left Mozambique to go to any other places for training. She quickly trained in Mozambique and came back to the front. She rose through the ranks to become a member of the general staff. And she was, because of a dint of courage and work, she became the director in the office of our revered General Tongogara. General Tongogara actually was made general by the British, not by Zanu forces. In Zanu forces, we had no generals until the end of the war. The only reason why General Tongogara emerged as a general was from London. Why? Because Peter Walls, we had lost the war. When we beat him at Mavonde, he was called by the British, if you have lost, come and surrender the armistice. Waro wana Tongogara. So he comes wearing uniform. Talking our meeting, he says, I'm the only general here talking about a ceasefire and the assembly points. The British humbled him and said, no. The man who won the war, Tongogara, is the general. So in the pecking order at Lancaster House, Tongogara was number 1. Walls had to be put in place at number 2. This is battlefield performance by Tongogara, which made him be recognized by the British as a general. But in the war, we had no generals. We were just comrades and commanders. So sometimes there is a myth which is now being built around people calling themselves generals. It doesn't wash with us when the war. I can assure you, it really doesn't wash, because we fought as comrades. And some of the people, we asked where the address you were fighting in. The war was in Mozambique. Some of the people come to Mozambique in 1978, just before the ceasefire. Opa was there from 75, 76, 77, 78. Coming from the north to the south with Tongogara, collecting reports, redacting those reports, turning them into war communiques. And by then I had been wounded. I was now working in Maputo. I would be the one with the undercomrade Sham who would announce the war communique, coming from where reports, because she had been moving up and down with the general, collecting those reports. Remember, this was a very scientific war. Tongogara had to read, each time there was a contact in the field, you had a notebook. If somebody dies, before you leave, you want to retrieve that notebook, because that notebook will give you information to the enemy. Those notebooks are here. They have not been studied. I don't know. We have to make them become studied. That is the story of how people fought the war. If you want to know how the war was fought, those are the notebooks. And Tongogara then read those notebooks. Kuti aziye kuti Maseru Scouts are centenary. ari kuita zvakati oudza vari kumapai ari kumutetengwe kuti chenjerai zvaakuitika uku muchazonzarwa. It came from a very, very thorough information interchange from the war, based on written records of people fighting at the front. And she was at the center of that reduction. I'm trying to say this because there's some people who want to say Tawe Magamba, when other people, Wakarwa Wondo, Takangoti Apera, we can do other better things than now with ourselves. I went back to university. I'd been to university, I went back to university. So I became a diplomat, others came elsewhere. So the fact that you're now a general does not give you any accolades about wartime performance, which is anyway any better than all the other comrades. And how about those who died? It's not Dynamos versus Caps. Amnenda muri 12, muri 11, modzoka muri 11. Munenda muri 12, kodzoka 4 api. Vamwe vese vasara. Saka unodo vese vakasara vangu vari madofu iwe ndiwo usingabviri wakabuda. Chimwe tozoti chakakuita kuti ubude chi, because you were in the wrong address. You were in Tanzania, the war was in Mozambique. Tinozviziva izvi. Hatidi kufumburana hedu. You know, we tried to, because it was a collective effort, but kana zvasvika pane dzimwe nharo tinozotaurirana tinotaura chakatadzaimbwa kutaura iyo kuchenama yechigona. Hatidi kudaro kusvika ipapo. So this is what we are involved in as the National People's Conference. Mutare is important because it has taken command of the trade of Zimbabwe once again. All the centuries I'm talking about of trade, until 1965, Mutare was the gateway for our trade on the Eastern Highlands because it's closer to the Indian Ocean. Unfortunately, it became a victim of geopolitics. 65, Smith declares UDI. The border is closed by UN sanctions. Mutare suffers. 1975, the war starts. Samora closes the border. Mutare suffers. During the war, the railway stops traveling to Beira. Mutare and Sofala suffers. At independence, we thought we could bring back Mutare back as our national gateway to the coast. The South Africans deploy an army, Renamo, to sabotage us from going through Mutare to Mozambique, which is our nearest access to the sea. So we have to deploy our army to fight. Do we not want that war? And Mutare was supporting, Manicaland was supporting the second war against South Africa. After winning the war, being the recruiting and entry infiltration province of the first war, they now assumed the role of being the deployment province for the war against Renamo in Mozambique. Who is Renamo? South African decided to fight us in Mozambique. If we had lost that war in Mozambique, South Africa would have occupied Zimbabwe. Definitely ANC and Namibia would not have been free. So we won again a second war because of the bravery of the people of Manicaland. And the economy suffered at that time. Why? Because we're now exporting 2,000 kilometers through Durban from Mutare. Can you imagine 2,000? The container leaves New York, $800. Shanghai, $800. Arrives in Durban. Harare, $4,000. You see the inflation factor? Very big. Now, Mutare is 300 kilometers from Beira. This is 2,000 kilometers. Now we've shortened. President Mnangagwa has restored the Mutare-Beira axis as the gateway of Zimbabwe's trade. It has reduced inflation costs in our logistics. It means more money in Zimbabwe. People, these are the achievements of the Second Republic. The can-do spirit which President Mnangagwa has imbued in our period. And I just want to add one last rejoinder that is associated with this vicious campaign is an attempt to denigrate one major power which has always stood by the people of Zimbabwe, China. From my phone, I can show you in 1974, our late chairman Chitepo meeting Deng Xiaoping, the leader of China, who modernizes the country. That was before he had troubles, and then he had to make a comeback and lead China. This is 1974. And Chitepo, as far back as 1964, he had established a relationship with China when it was still very poor. It was emerging from the Civil War. You can see the visionary aspect about Zanu PF, that this economy is now the second largest economy, and very soon will pip America to be the first economy in the world. This is the visionary aspect even about Zanu PF, that Mwari anotikomborera kuti shamwari dzatinotsvaka nadzo tichiri vacheche ndodzinopedzisira dzaama president. You know, isn't it a good thing that somebody you went to school with, office? That's what China has done. It has assumed that role in global affairs, and they can't forget the relationship with Zimbabwe. So most of the things about our turnaround of the economy are now associated with the fastest growing economy in the world. But it is being penned left, right, and center. Nana Magu, Nanani, and Nana China. So this to have a xenophobia. It's still we are victims of xenophobia in South Africa. We are now being told we have a xenophobia about another race. But this race is the most successful in the world today in terms of economic performance. Ukasiyana nevanhu vari kubudirira, ukatanga kutukana navo, unobudirira sei? You must, if there are issues which may arise, you must not give a rubric of race. We must never fall into the trap of treating other human beings in terms of their grouping or their nationality. If there are issues, they should be solved with respect to our history, with respect to the dignity of the human beings, and definitely without the geopolitics. Because those of the uri kushoterwa kuti Dinson yaisa mari munhu, uri kushoterwa kuti Acadia yaisa mari yako yawakambonza majuru kuti magugu kuti tione kuti hauri shasha chii chako ndechekungotukidzira bedzi aita iwo hauna kana chaunoita kana one day. Imboita yawo mabasa, zvinhu zvigoni, munhu anozivikanwa nemabasa ake. That's what I say, and Zimbabweans should not be misled. But look, this economy is doing well. It's on the trajectory of growth. The president is hitting all the right, ticking all the good the boxes. The pistons are firing. We are not going back. The can-do spirit of Zimbabweans is back. That's why there's a confidence by our diaspora. Yevarungu vadzoka vakatiza hondo. Yes, varungu vadzoka vakatiza majority rule. Vazara kumasabhabhu kwesoko. Why? Because home is good. They see the prospects of this country getting better. And our relations with everybody are getting better too. Hey, you can't believe it. The American government is now debating a bill to remove our sanctions. Right. Thank you, President Trump and your administration for realizing the fall of sanctions. So if we can get back again our relation with America, we now have the second most important economy on our side. We have the first economy of the world on our side, which means President Mnangagwa's enemy to none, friend to all. Is good. It means more prosperity. We are hungry to see intrepid American businessmen come and compete against the Chinese, against the Indians, against anybody. Who gains? Zimbabwe. These are the policies of President Mnangagwa. So I don't understand why, if it is not broken, why do you want to fix it? And our membership says, per resolution number 1, because amen. Thank you so much.